if you strap a tank of normal everyday air to your back and, swim down exactly 57 meters into the ocean, the very oxygen keeping you alive will suddenly and violently trigger a fatal seizure.
Yeah, you are literally breathing poison at that point.
It's crazy. Welcome to the deep dive. When you look out at the ocean, it feels like this boundless, infinite expanse, like you could just jump in and keep sinking into an endless alien world.
Right, it looks completely open.
Exactly. But for the vast majority of people exploring that water, there is a hard, strictly enforced physical wall waiting in the deep,
Yeah.
and it sits at exactly 40 meters.
And the wild thing is, to the naked eye, the water at 39 meters looks and feels completely indistinguishable from the water at 41 meters.
Right.
There is no visible barrier. But the drop-off in human survivability right there is staggering.
So we've got a massive stack of sources in front of us today. We're looking at medical research notes, physics journals, and these really detailed deep water visual guides. And our mission today is to figure out the truth about this invisible wall.
Because it's not just made up.
Right. Like, why 40 meters? Why not 50? Why not 100? Because the ocean doesn't care about, arbitrary rules written by diving regulators.
No, not at all. It only cares about physics.
Yeah.
The 40-meter limit is dictated entirely by the intense physics of underwater pressure and, well, the hard biological limits of human physiology.
So we are going to look at the cellular level of what happens to your tissues, your central nervous system, and your brain when you push past that boundary.
It's a fascinating and, frankly, terrifying process.
Okay, let's unpack this. To really understand why deep water is so hostile, we have to look at the air in the diver's tank.
Right, the breathing gas.
Yeah. According to the research, the standard mix used in recreational diving is basically the exact same air you and I are breathing right now in this room. It's roughly 21% oxygen and 79% nitrogen.
Exactly.
So it's normal atmosphere just packed into an aluminum or steel cylinder. If it's the exact same air we're breathing right now in our living rooms, why does it suddenly become a lethal threat underwater? It's like taking a perfectly safe glass of water, putting it in a different room, and suddenly it's poisonous.
That's a great way to put it, because that atmospheric mix is perfectly optimized for human beings living under one atmosphere of pressure.
Meaning surface level.
Right, surface level.
Hmm.
But the moment you take that tank underwater, the environment changes the mathematical reality of that gas. We have to look at Boyle's law for this.
Okay, Boyle's law.
Yeah, which states that as pressure increases, the volume of a gas decreases. So at the surface, the weight of the air above us exerts 1 unit of pressure. But water is incredibly heavy.
Right.
For every 10 meters you descend, you add another full atmosphere of pressure.
So at 40 meters down, you're experiencing 5 times the pressure you feel at the surface.
Exactly. 1 atmosphere of air plus 4 atmospheres of water weight.
But the tank itself is a rigid metal cylinder. I mean, the ocean isn't crushing the metal.
The cylinder is rigid, yes. But the regulator, the device you actually put in your mouth to breathe from, delivers the air to your lungs at the exact ambient pressure of the water around you.
Oh, wow.
If you didn't do that, your chest muscles literally wouldn't be strong enough to pull the air in against the crushing weight of the water.
That makes sense. You'd just be fighting the ocean.
And you'd lose. So the regulator provides air at 5 atmospheres of pressure. Because of that pressure, the gas molecules are forced tightly together. The air becomes fundamentally denser. It physically gets thicker.
Okay, I want to make sure we visualize this properly, because I was thinking about this like a concert venue.
Oh, I like that.
So if gas partial pressure is a concert venue, at the surface, you have 100 people in a massive stadium.
Tons of space.
Right. They have plenty of room to move around, occasionally bumping into the walls. And the walls are the delicate tissues of your lungs.
Okay.
But at 40 meters, the water pressure has shrunk that venue down to the size of a small living room. You still have those exact same 100 people, but now they are packed shoulder to shoulder, violently and continuously slamming into the walls.
That is the perfect way to understand Dalton's law of partial pressures.
Yes.
Yes, your lungs are inflating to the same physical volume, but because the air is so dense, you are taking in 5 times the number of gas molecules with every single breath.
Wow, 5 times the molecules.
Yeah, so the actual pressure of the nitrogen and oxygen hitting your cellular walls is magnified exponentially. And that single mechanism, increased gas density driving up partial pressures, is basically the engine behind every physiological hazard of deep diving.
Okay, so let's follow that dense air into the body. We pull in a massive volume of gas molecules with every breath, and 79% of that is nitrogen.
Right.
Now, at the surface, nitrogen does absolutely nothing to us. We inhale it, we exhale it, it's biologically inert.
Completely harmless.
No.
Under heavy water pressure, however, we run into Henry's law of gas solubility.
Lots of laws today.
I know it's a physics-heavy topic, but Henry's law dictates that at higher pressures, gases will physically dissolve into liquids.
Oh.
So when you breathe that dense, highly pressurized nitrogen into your lungs, it doesn't just passively cycle back out. It is forcefully driven across your lung membranes and dissolves directly into your blood plasma.
Wait, really? So your blood is suddenly carrying a massive payload of dissolved nitrogen, just circulating it out to every tissue in your body?
Exactly. And your tissues are essentially at a lower nitrogen pressure than your blood, which creates a gradient.
Like a magnet, kind of?
Sort of, yeah. The nitrogen moves from the high-pressure environment of your blood into the lower-pressure environment of your muscles, joints, and fat. And the deeper you go, the steeper that pressure gradient becomes.
Meaning the faster your tissues saturate with dissolved gas?
You got it. This is accelerated tissue saturation.
So it's not just about how deep you go, but how long you stay there. It sounds like an invisible ticking clock.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it absolutely is a constantly shrinking window of time. You're building up a massive gas debt.
Gas debt. I like that term.
Yeah, your body can only tolerate a certain level of dissolved nitrogen before you hit a critical threshold.
And if you hit that threshold, I assume you can't just head back up to the boat. Because as you ascend, the water pressure drops.
Right?
And based on Henry's law, as pressure drops, a liquid can't hold as much dissolved gas.
Exactly. The gas has to come out of solution. If you ascend slowly, staying within your time limits, the nitrogen moves smoothly from your tissues back into your blood and out through your lungs with each breath.
So your lungs act as a controlled exhaust valve.
Yes. But if you absorb too much nitrogen, or if you ascend too quickly, the pressure drops faster than your lungs can off gas.
It's like a massive traffic jam at a highway exit ramp.
Oh, that's exactly what it is.
The off-ramp is your lungs. If a few cars take the exit steadily, traffic flows. But if 1,000 cars try to jam through a single-lane exit all at once, the whole system completely breaks down.
The system breaks down, and the nitrogen physically comes out of solution directly inside your tissues and bloodstream, forming expanding bubbles.
Ugh, that sounds awful.
It is. This is decompression sickness, also known as the bends. These microbubbles act like physical roadblocks in your vascular system.
Oh, man.
It can block blood flow to the spinal cord, tear through joint tissues, or travel to the brain.
So to avoid this, divers who overstay their time window are forced to endure complex, hours-long decompression procedures.
Yeah, decompression stops, just sitting at specific depths, meticulously staggering the release of that dissolved gas so the off-ramp doesn't get overwhelmed.
So breathing normal air suddenly puts you on an invisible biological timer, trapping you under a ceiling of water until you slowly pay off your gas debt.
That's the reality of it.
But the research points out that nitrogen saturation is just the mechanical threat. There's a whole separate cognitive threat happening simultaneously.
Oh, yeah.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because starting around 30 meters, all that dissolved nitrogen starts actively attacking your brain function.
Yeah, the phenomenon is known as nitrogen narcosis. And we have to look at the lipid solubility theory to understand why a harmless gas suddenly turns into an intoxicant.
Okay, lipid meaning fat.
Right. Nitrogen is highly lipophilic, meaning it dissolves incredibly well in fats, or lipids.
And the human brain is practically entirely composed of fat.
Exactly. Specifically, the nerve cells in your brain are insulated by a fatty layer called the myelin sheath.
Okay.
So as the highly pressurized nitrogen circulates through your central nervous system, the molecules dissolve directly into these fatty sheaths. The physical presence of the nitrogen molecules causes the lipid layer to swell slightly.
Wait, it physically distorts the nerve cells?
Yes. It expands the cellular membrane just enough to interfere with the ion channels that transmit electrical signals.
Wow.
Your neurons rely on precise electrical and chemical signaling to communicate across synapses. When those membranes swell, the transmission of those signals is physically delayed or disrupted.
So your brain is essentially running on a throttled connection.
That is a perfect description.
So that's the mechanism behind the cognitive shift. The research describes narcosis as terrifyingly similar to alcohol intoxication.
It really is.
Like, the deeper you go, the more the myelin sheaths swell, and the slower your processing becomes. Divers report feeling euphoric, overconfident, or experiencing severe anxiety.
The medical community literally refers to it as the martini effect.
A martini effect.
Yeah. The rough rule of thumb is that every 10 meters you descend past 20 meters feels like drinking one martini on an empty stomach.
Oh my God.
You might look at the pressure gauge displaying your remaining air and simply fail to comprehend what the numbers signify. Your critical thinking just evaporates.
Which is a brutal irony. I mean, so you're in an extreme life or death environment where you need your wits about you.
Right.
You need to be mathematically calculating your tissue saturation, monitoring your depth, regulating your breathing.
And the very air keeping you alive is making you overly confident and clouding your judgment.
It's chemically dissolving into your nerve cells, making you feel invincible while dulling your reaction time.
It's an insidious threat because the victim is often the last to realize they are compromised. But, the biological mechanism of narcosis actually provides its own immediate cure.
Phew.
Yeah, unlike tissue saturation, which takes hours to safely off gas, narcosis is entirely tied to ambient pressure.
So if you realize your thoughts are sluggish, or you suddenly feel an overwhelming urge to offer a passing sea turtle a hit from your regulator, you just ascend.
You just move to a shallower depth.
Yeah.
As you ascend, the ambient pressure drops, the partial pressure of nitrogen decreases, and the gas rapidly moves out of the lipid tissues in your brain.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah.
The swelling of the neuronal membrane subsides, the electrical signals resume their normal pace, and a diver's clear cognitive function can return in a matter of seconds.
All right, I'm looking at this from a problem-solving perspective.
Okay, let's hear it.
We have a rapidly ticking clock of tissue saturation causing decompression sickness, and the very real risk of losing our minds to nitrogen dissolving into our brain fat starting at 30 meters. Both of these massive hazards are caused by the 79% nitrogen in our tank. So the obvious solution, and I'm sure anyone studying this would arrive at the same conclusion, is to just alter the gas.
Ah, I see where you go.
Strip out the nitrogen. Give me a tank with 50% oxygen, or hell, 100% pure oxygen. Problem solved, right?
It's the most intuitive logical leap. Oxygen is the metabolic fuel our cells demand. Why not give the body more of what it needs and less of what harms it?
Exactly.
But this introduces the third and most lethal constraint of deep water gas density, the oxygen paradox.
The oxygen paradox, meaning the fuel becomes the fire.
Very much so. Under high partial pressures, oxygen is violently toxic to the human central nervous system. This is known as central nervous system oxygen toxicity.
Also called the Paul Bert effect in the sources.
Right, the Paul Bert effect.
Yeah.
And the mechanism behind it is terrifyingly aggressive.
Our sources note that when breathing standard recreational air, that 21% mix, this toxicity becomes a critical risk just past the 56-meter mark.
Yeah.
What exactly is happening in the body at 56 meters?
Well, at 56 meters, the ambient pressure is nearly 6.6 atmospheres.
Huge pressure.
Massive.
Yeah.
So when you multiply the 21% oxygen by that crushing pressure, the partial pressure of oxygen in your lungs spikes to roughly 1.4 to 1.6 atmospheres.
Okay.
At this extreme concentration, the oxygen simply overwhelms your cellular metabolism.
Because oxygen isn't entirely harmless even at the surface, right? Our bodies use it, but it produces waste.
Right. Cellular respiration produces reactive oxygen species, free radicals.
Free radicals.
Yeah. These are highly unstable molecules with unpaired electrons that seek to tear electrons away from other cellular structures. Now, at surface pressure, our bodies have antioxidant defenses that neutralize these free radicals perfectly.
But at 56 meters, breathing dense, pressurized air, you are flooding the engine.
The influx of oxygen is so massive that the production of free radicals completely overruns the body's defensive enzymes. You experience acute, massive oxidative stress.
And the brain takes the hit first.
Because the brain has an incredibly high metabolic rate, it is the absolute first organ to suffer. The free radicals begin damaging the cell membranes of your neurons, completely disrupting the delicate balance of neurotransmitters.
The neurons just start misfiring randomly.
Exactly. And unlike nitrogen narcosis, where the brain slows down into a drunken stupor, oxygen toxicity causes the central nervous system to rapidly short-circuit.
Wow.
The electrical chaos manifests as visual disturbances, muscle fasciculations, often lip or facial twitching, and then suddenly massive grand mal seizures.
I mean, think about that. Oxygen, the literal fuel for human life, the thing you and I are breathing right now to stay alive, becomes a deadly poison if you pack too much of it into your lungs at depth.
It is a shocking betrayal by your own biology.
And a seizure on land is a manageable medical emergency. A seizure 56 meters underwater when you need your jaw muscles to hold onto your breathing regulator.
It is a death sentence. The diver will inevitably drop the regulator during the convulsion and they will drown long before they can be brought to the surface.
That is terrifying.
And there is no warning. The transition from feeling perfectly fine to full central nervous system failure can happen in a fraction of a second.
Okay, let's pull back and look at the entire board here. We have an intoxicating nitrogen threat that starts dissolving into our brain lipids at 30 meters. We have Henry's law forcing dissolved nitrogen into our tissues, drastically shortening our dive time. And we have massive cellular oxidative stress from oxygen toxicity waiting for us at 56 meters, ready to trigger a fatal seizure.
Yeah, quite the minefield. Which brings us back to the core question of the deep dive. Why 40 meters?
40 meters is the eye of the needle. It is the exact physical sweet spot.
It is the ultimate physiological safety buffer.
Right.
By strictly enforcing a 40-meter limit, diving agencies keep recreational divers mathematically insulated from the worst of all these effects. At 40 meters, the partial pressure of oxygen is around 1.05 atmospheres.
Which is well below the 1.4 danger zone where massive oxidative stress begins.
Exactly. And it keeps the nitrogen in check, too.
Yeah, because the narcosis at 40 meters is present, but manageable for a trained diver.
Right. More importantly, it keeps the tissue saturation rate slow enough that you can actually enjoy a brief dive and return directly to the surface without requiring hours of complex decompression stops.
So the 40-meter wall is an elegant compromise between human curiosity and the uncompromising laws of physics.
Perfectly said.
But human nature abhors a boundary. I mean, if you tell an explorer there is an invisible line they cannot cross, their immediate instinct is to look for a way over it.
Or, in this case, under it.
Exactly. What if a diver needs to go to 80 meters or 100 meters to explore a deep wreck or a cave system? If standard air will either drug you or poison you, how is it physically possible?
Well, you have to rewrite the atmospheric rules.
Okay.
When you push past 40 meters, you leave recreational diving behind and enter the realm of technical diving.
Technical diving.
Yeah. Technical divers cannot rely on the air we breathe on the surface. They have to engineer entirely synthetic breathing gases.
They literally manufacture a new atmosphere in their tanks.
Yes, they do.
So if standard air is 21% oxygen and 79% nitrogen, how do they alter it to survive a 100-meter dive?
They calculate the exact depth they plan to hit, and they adjust the partial pressures accordingly.
Okay.
To avoid the deadly oxidative stress of oxygen toxicity at extreme depths, they do something that sounds incredibly counterintuitive. They physically reduce the percentage of oxygen in their tank.
Wait, really? You are going deeper into a hostile, suffocating environment, and you intentionally bring less oxygen with you?
Because Dalton's law demands it. If they use a mix with only 10% oxygen, breathing it at the surface would cause them to pass out from hypoxia.
Because it's not enough.
Right. But when they take that 10% mix down to 100 meters, the crushing weight of 11 atmospheres of pressure condenses that tiny fraction of oxygen into a breathable, life-sustaining density.
That is mind-blowing. But what about the nitrogen? If they reduce the oxygen, the nitrogen percentage goes up. Wouldn't that make the narcosis and the tissue saturation incredibly severe?
Oh, it would be absolutely debilitating. Which is why technical divers remove massive amounts of nitrogen and replace it with a third gas entirely.
A third gas?
Typically, they use helium. This creates a specialized gas blend called trimix. So that's oxygen, nitrogen, and helium.
Why helium? Just because it's lighter.
Because of its chemical properties. Helium molecules are exceptionally small. And crucially, helium is highly insoluble in lipid tissues. Unlike nitrogen, it does not dissolve easily into the myelin sheaths of your nerve cells.
So it completely bypasses the lipid solubility issue. Yeah. No swollen nerve membranes, no delayed electrical signals, no narcosis.
Exactly. By cutting the nitrogen and substituting helium, a diver at 100 meters can retain crystal clear cognitive function.
Wow.
They still have to manage incredibly complex, mathematically rigorous decompression schedules to off-gas the helium and the remaining nitrogen, but they remove the immediate threats of narcosis and oxygen toxicity.
So what does this all mean? When we started today, we were investigating a simple rule, a 40-meter limit for scuba divers. But peeling back the layers, we found a master class in human biology interacting with extreme physics.
It really is.
A simple descent into the water turns the harmless air in our living rooms into a highly pressurized chemical cocktail. Nitrogen dissolves into our blood, saturating our tissues like a biological debt, and sneaks into our brain fat to short-circuit our cognitive wiring.
And oxygen concentrates into a dense barrage of free radicals.
Right. The very fuel of human life can overwhelm our central nervous system. The 40-meter wall isn't an arbitrary rule, it is the absolute limit of where the human body can endure the unaltered atmosphere of Earth under pressure.
And, it forces a profound realization about human adaptability. To go any deeper, we cannot just rely on grit or endurance. We have to mathematically dismantle and rebuild the very air we breathe.
Yeah.
And if technical divers can engineer synthetic gas mixtures like Trimix to survive the crushing, hostile depths of our own planet's oceans, it makes you wonder.
Wonder what?
By understanding partial pressures and cellular metabolism, what other impossible alien environments in our solar system could humans eventually explore, simply by engineering the perfect cocktail of synthetic atmosphere?
Oh, wow. That is an incredible thought to end on. If we can hack the physics of the deep sea, we can hack the physics of the stars.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. The next time you look out at the ocean or simply take a deep breath of normal, surface-level air, remember the delicate mathematical balance keeping you alive.
And the extreme physics operating just below the waves.
Keep questioning the hidden forces in the world around you, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.